Part 6b. Hidden in plain sight. How do they hide? That's the question I want to answer. Because the hiding is not incidental to what they do. The hiding is what they do. I'm going to use my own experience as the lens. And in my case, what was being attempted was a destiny swap. But this is bigger than one story. Whether someone is working against you financially, socially, professionally, or personally, the specific attack varies. The intention behind it varies. But the architecture, the way it is built, sustained, and hidden, that never changes. So whatever your situation is, hold it alongside what I'm about to share. Because what I'm showing you is not just my story. It is a blueprint. And once you can read a blueprint, you can recognize it anywhere. There are people in this world who look at your life, your relationships, your reputation, and your lane and decide they want it. Not to build something similar, not to be inspired by it. They want yours. They want to stand where you stand, be seen the way you're seen, and occupy the space you occupy. And the way they go about trying to take it is something most of us aren't prepared for. Because we've been taught, directly or indirectly, that if we don't believe in certain things, those things can't reach us. Well, I am here to tell you that that is not true. Not talking about this is not your protection. It is theirs. Silence, yours, mine, and ours, is exactly what gives people operating this way the cover they need. It buys them time. It earns them excuses. It hands them pardons. It allows them to stay in your life, close and trusted, while they do the damage they need to do in the background. Every conversation that doesn't happen about this, every person who dismisses it or laughs it off or changes the subject, that is not neutrality. That is an advantage handed directly to the people doing the harm. Because this is a story about a destiny swap attempt, and it is vicious, and it has the potential to destroy someone's life. She came into my life in a big way when I was 17. She was 19. I welcomed her, brought her into my world, my friend group, my community, made space for her among people who had known me since childhood. I gave a lot of myself, a lot of my energy, the way it is expected in any loving relationship. I wanted the best for her, often at my own expense, costing me time, money, and in ways I didn't fully see then, my own sense of self. Never once did I see love as a finite resource I needed to guard. I had no idea that decades later, she would work methodically and strategically to erase me from the very spaces I had invited her into. Here's the first truth worth understanding. There are people who see other people as inventory. It doesn't matter if they're friends, family, or strangers. They scout, they study, they position. They wear whatever mask they need to wear to work behind your back undetected. And the aim is to take financially, socially, emotionally, and spiritually. It isn't done carelessly. These are not impulsive people acting out of momentary jealousy. They're patient, methodical. They study you, not casually like a friend pays attention, but strategically. They are looking for the specific patterns in you that make you available. The places where you override your own instincts to keep the peace. The relationships you protect at the expense of yourself. The doors you leave open because you were raised to believe that love means unlimited access. That is how they stay hidden so long. Not because they're invisible, but because they know exactly where you are not looking. And here's the part that took me the longest to fully absorb. They feel no moral conflict about any of it. There is no hesitation and no internal wrestling. There is no moment where conscience intervenes. To them, it is simply a resource, a strategy. It's transactional and practical. It's Tuesday. These aren't people who openly dabble in dark things. These aren't people with pentagrams on their walls. In many cases, and I say this from direct experience, these are people who perform religiosity. People who would recoil publicly at any mention of the occult. People who might be in your church, your family, your inner circle, using the language of faith as cover. In private, it's a different story. In private, they get readings done on you. They pay for it. They commission it. They find practitioners. Some call it obia. Some call it root work. Some don't call it anything at all. They just find it on the internet and they direct it at people in their lives. Friends, family, people they smile at and cook for and show up for. And I want to be clear about something before I go further. I hold no judgment against spiritual practice in any form. I believe there is light and shadow in everything. Every tradition, every framework, every tool that human beings have ever used to reach towards something greater than themselves. Darkness does not belong to any one practice. It finds its channel through the people who invite it in, regardless of the tradition they use to do so. What I am describing is not the practice, it is the intention behind it. And the intention here was harm. And here's what makes that violating. When someone commissions a reading on you, what they're accessing is not just who you are today. They're accessing what you're moving toward. They're accessing your potential, the trajectory of your life, where you're headed, what you're building toward, what is already in motion even before you have fully named it yourself. Because all of us are born with our highest potential already written. It exists. It is real. It belongs to you completely. But potential doesn't mean it's automatic. It has to be claimed. It has to be walked toward, chosen, and grown into. And in the space between who you are right now and who you were ordained to become, that sacred space in between is exactly where people like this plant themselves. They know your trajectory before you do. They see what is coming for you before you have even fully stepped into it. And rather than walking their own path, they make a decision to position themselves between you and where you're going, to insert themselves onto your path, to block, to redirect, to intercept what was never theirs to touch. That is the depth of the audacity. They're not just envying what you have, they're coveting what you haven't even fully become yet. But the private work is only one half of it. The other half, the half that is just as deliberate and just as damaging, is what they do to your reputation while they're working in the background. They craft a narrative about you quietly and carefully. They distribute it, not loudly and not all at once, but slowly, consistently, in small doses among the people in your world. And the narrative they choose is not random. In a destiny swap, the narrative crafting is very specific. It is a swap in the truest sense, not just an attack on who you are, but a systematic exchange. They take what they know about you, your qualities, your ideas, your character, the things that make you, you, and they begin presenting those things as their own, quietly assuming your gifts, projecting your vision as if it originated with them, absorbing the most desirable parts of your identity and wearing them like something they were born into. And simultaneously and methodically, in the same small doses, they begin weaving their own characteristics into the story they tell about you. Their instability becomes your instability. Their insecurity becomes your insecurity. The things they do in private, the motivations they would never admit to publicly, start appearing in the narrative as things you do, things you are. Listen carefully to what people like this say about others, because almost without exception, what comes out of their mouths is a confession. Every flaw they assign to you lives in them. Every virtue they claim for themselves was borrowed or stolen from someone they studied closely enough to be able to replicate. The result is a laundering. They emerge cleaner, more desirable, a better version of a life they didn't build. And you, the target, begin to be seen through the lens of everything they needed to offload. Carrying the weight that was never yours, wearing a shadow that belongs to someone else entirely. That is the architecture of a destiny swap, and it is not just harm, it is replacement. And it only works in the dark, which is precisely why the silence around it is so carefully maintained. Part 6b. The rest of it, I've shown you now how they build it. Next, I'm going to show you how they maintain it, how they stay close enough, long enough, to make sure the work they've done in the dark has the time it needs to take hold. This is the part that will make you rethink every relationship that ever felt inexplicably draining. Don't miss it.